Lawler.
What's up, Fight Family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago Alves, the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Munoz.
This is Mike Brown.
Guys, I am Alexei Olenik. And welcome.
And welcome. And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want One Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi, everybody from American Top Picks.
Hey guys, it's Angelo with We Want Picks. UFC London starts pretty early for us here in the States, so I'm not going to be able to do a pre-fight live stream, but what I am going to be able to do is take all of the money that we were going to build a full card parlay with this week and push it to next week. So next week, we will be doing a $40 full card parlay, maybe two different $20 full card parlays to make it a little easier and a little more achievable. So make sure you become a member to qualify for that next week. And in the meantime, enjoy the breakdown from Tuesday. I'll replay that now. Good luck today with all of your picks, plays, and bets. And we will see you on Sunday for our quick picks. My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. Jacob and I are going to break down the entire UFC London fight card. We're going to give you our picks, our bets, and our fantasy plays. And the UFC is back in London. This is a really good card. And UFC did not do the Europeans any favors. There's some really tough matchups in here. You would think they would just give them all wins for the hometown crowd, but they're not doing that. So we're going to go through the entire card. If you want $50 free dollars, 50 free dollars, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know, and we send you $50. There's literally a form at the bottom of the page that says claim your free money. Put your information in there. It comes to me. I send you $50. It's that simple. WeWantPicks.com/bets. And this stream is brought to you by BETU Play to Earn. BETU Play to Earn is the first play to earn sports and esports betting game. Check it out now at betuearn.com. And OddsJam. OddsJam has the fastest real-time data to spot discrepancies between different sports books, which helps you place risk-free bets. Check it out now at oddsjam.com. We're like a NASCAR, buddy. This is a good fight card. Are you looking forward to it?
I am 100%. That crowd is going to be ruckus. There's nobody really gets louder than those London fans. So the hometown crowd, the everything is going to be crazy, crazy. I can't wait. Especially, I mean, is there anything going to be better than Paddy's walkout? I don't think. That's going to trump everything. Paddy's walkout's going to be incredible. I'm excited.
Next up, at UFC London, we have a ridiculous prospect. Like, the whole world is in love with Muhammad Mokaev. And he is taking on Cody Durden. Muhammad Mokaev, you see that 5-0? Well, that's because he only has 5 professional fights. He has an enormous amount of amateur fights, 23, I believe. And, you know, he's got a nasty wrestling background, so you can say he has experience. But 5-0 is his official pro MMA record. He's taking on Cody Durden, 12-3 overall, 3-1-1 in his last 5. He's coming off a dominant win just a few months ago. And this is a card loaded with British strikers. And this is not one of those things. We have Muhammad Mokaev is a Dagestani wrestler, and he's taking on Cody Durden, who is an American wrestler. For wrestlers like myself, this should be a pretty fun matchup. Muhammad Mokaev is a Dagestani wrestler, but he grew up in England. So if you ever see an interview with him, that explains the accent. It's half English, half, you know, Russian, Dagestani, whatever that is. And he's got some little twang going on there. Mokaev is an incredible wrestler.
Is he Arkansas wrestling? Is that kind of twang?
Okay. Muhammad Mokaev is an incredible wrestler. Even though he's only listed at 5-0, he does have a really long and successful amateur career. I don't know if experience is going to be an issue here. I certainly think he's had enough like fight experience, but he definitely has not had the big lights experience. He hasn't had the pressure experience. He's never been in a setting like this with this many people watching, this kind of crowd. I mean, this going to be a rabid crowd, and that may be a factor here. He is a very dominant wrestler. He has great grappling, and he's always improving in his striking. Cody Durden is a wrestler. He throws big looping punches to close the distance and get a takedown. His takedowns are very good, and he chains them together really well. His takedown accuracy is less than 40%, but he averages more than 4 per fight. 4 takedowns per fight. And anytime you see somebody that has an accuracy under 50%, but an execution rate as high as 4 per fight, that just tells you what a good chain wrestler that is. That means he took his first shot, didn't get it, transitioned to the second, didn't get it, probably got the third one. So technically, the accuracy is low, but the execution is very high. Like I said, he's averaging 4 per fight. And it's a very interesting fight because all of the hype, all of it is saying Muhammad Mokaev is the next Islam, the next Dagestani superstar. He is only 21 years old. And I think this is a really tough first UFC fight for him. And if this is a straight up, just pure wrestling match, I think Muhammad Mokaev wins that, right? But it's not. This is an MMA fight. This is a pretty big MMA fight, right? As far as the lights, the attention, and all of that is concerned. And Cody has 0 issues just coming in, throwing heavy bombs, and then shooting takedowns. And if you dig into Muhammad's fights, whatever you can find, right? Not all 30 fights are on the internet, but whatever fights you can find, there's not a lot of people coming at him the way that I know Cody will. There's not a lot of people looking to take him down. Most of his opponents think they can keep it on their feet, and they want to try to outstrike him. And that's not what Cody's going to do. So I think Muhammad's going to get a different look. I think the bright lights might be a concern, right? He's got experience in the cage, experience in the ring, but not attention experience, whatever you want to call that. And, but I am buying into the hype. So I do think Muhammad wins this fight. I'm absolutely buying into the hype. Everything I saw was fantastic. I am 100% serious, though, with all of those other factors. So I like him to win. He's the pick. I'm not spending this kind of money on him. There's too many unknowns to spend that kind of money. There's a lot of people out there that are going to make him a parlay piece. Oh, Dagestani wrestler, blah, 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 blah. There's no way I'm going to put him in. Just not yet. Maybe his next fight. Just not yet. I just have to see what he looks like in the real world to make that happen. Jakey boy, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100% with literally everything that you said, which is very uncomfortable for me to say, but I give props when props to do. So Muhammad is definitely the play, but those odds are kind of crazy to me. They keep even ballooning even more. I would put him maybe like a minus 200-ish, maybe even like a minus 175. I think he's already like a minus like 350, 360, something like that, because Cody is a very good wrestler. He actually got a scholarship offer from West Point. So, I mean, it's a Division I real wrestling background that he's got. And I think that he's going to be able to offensive wrestle in this matchup. Whether he is continuing to have success in that, can he chain that together in the first round, in the second round, the third round? I don't know. I've seen Muhammad in his defensive wrestling. It is also very good as his offensive wrestling is. So he obviously knows how to defend a takedown. But can Cody work something a little bit different that he hasn't seen before, get him on his back? And remember, he's only 21 years old. You mentioned the factors of the home crowd and stuff. When you're 21, you don't have a lot of experience in general. And when you're that good of a wrestler, you probably don't have a lot of experience on your back. So the second that he gets on his back, how is he going to react? Is he going to panic? Can Cody find those opportunities? That's the big questions here. But I think Muhammad's probably definitely the play. He's a very confident guy, too, in the octagon. You can tell there's no nerves with him. But once he's on his back, if he gets to his back, it'll be interesting to see how this fight shifts. So this might be a live bet situation. The first time you see Cody get a takedown, it's, let's start piling it on before the line moves. But I think the play probably still is Muhammad, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so a couple things. One, he's got a big-time management team. So they are expecting him to be a superstar. They're preparing for that. They're setting him up that way. The second thing, you bring up a good point with, we haven't seen him on his back, and who knows. And, Cody Durden is a very good wrestler. Like I said, straight wrestling match, I think Muhammad's the better wrestler. But let's not forget what Tim Elliott just did to Tagir Ulanbekov. This could literally be the exact same thing. Tagir just didn't wrestle. For whatever reason, he didn't wrestle, and that's why he lost that fight. Cody Durden is going to wrestle. There is no plan B. It's wrestle. That's all he's going to do. So we both think Muhammad's going to win. We both think the hype is real, but neither one of us are confident enough to make him a parlay piece, put down some money. And the last thing I'll mention about the odds. So that's actually what OddsJam does. Check out OddsJam at oddsjam.com. But what they do is they're pulling live odds from all the books, and they pull them faster than, anybody else is doing it. But they calculate, they have some ridiculous mathematical equation in there and some AI. They calculate what the best odds should be. And as soon as they see one of the books hit that or go past it, they highlight it and they let you know. So basically monitor those odds. And as soon as you see what is better than what should be the best, that's the book you go to and that's the bet you make. So they do a really good job basically just giving you the tools you need to exploit the books. And some of them, honestly, sleep on MMA. They sleep on UFC. They don't follow the odds the way they should. They don't update them the way they should. And oddsjam.com will help you do that. So DraftKings, personally, I'm not going to touch it. But this is the type of fight. All of a sudden, Muhammad's going to come out there, get a takedown, 3 elbows in the mouth. He scored 120 points. But I just don't think I have enough confidence to spend $9,100. What do you think?
Yeah, after everything I said, I think $9,100 is honestly an incredible value for someone of his talent. Because he should dominate the fight. I mean, we'll see what happens, but there's a reason why a lot of people are still putting money on him at minus 350, right? The odds moved. So people are still confident putting money on him at minus 350. He should dominate. And minus 350 typically in DraftKings is a $94, $95, $900, $9,600 value. So I think he's good value at $9,100.
DraftKings pricing is interesting this week. There's a lot of fights that are pick'ems according to the odds, but DraftKings just straight up drew a line and fixed that. But we'll see what my lineup looks like. There's a bunch of weird matchups here, but I want him to be the next big thing. I think he probably is the next big thing, but it's a lot to ask to just take that kind of chance on a guy that really just doesn't have this level of experience just yet.
21 years old.
I think it's a clear, I think it's, man, this 59-58 monkey knife fight strike line is really interesting. It's either more or less. I think it's somewhat of a competitive fight, meaning even if Muhammad is dominated with the wrestling, I think Cody's in there bombing away. And when they hit the ground, Muhammad's not a elbow kind of guy. He's a control kind of guy. So I do think the strikes are probably close to even, but Cody Durden does tend to get pieced up a little bit as far as the strikes are concerned.
Concerned.
What do you concerned. What do you think of this monkey knife fight strike line? More, less?
I think it's more because I think there's more striking than we expect. You got a wrestler and a wrestler. A lot of times they just kind of like to strike for a little bit. And like you mentioned, Cody is hittable, and Muhammad will strike. So if he starts hitting Cody, why would you shoot a takedown at 21 years old in front of this big crowd? When you're about to knock the guy out. So I think those numbers could add up fast.
Yeah, more is probably the safe play here. If you want to check out monkey knife fight, go to WeWantPicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit up to $100. Check it out. You make a deposit, they match it. It's basically risk-free because use the free deposit money to place some plays and bet on some of these lines and see what happens. If you lose, who cares? It was their money. It was a deposit match. If you win, great. Withdraw your real money and now you're only playing with house money. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. And to get money to throw in there, you want 50 free? WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 partners. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do, and we send you $50. Next up, at UFC London, we have Elise Reed versus Corey McKenna. Corey McKenna is 6-1 overall, 4-1 in her last 5, riding a 4-fight win streak. Elise Reed is 4-1 in her entire career, therefore 4-1 in her last 5, and she's coming off that very one-sided loss to Shajara Eubanks. And that one-sided loss, let's not forget, when Elise Reed took that fight, it was short notice and she went up in weight. That was at 125 pounds, not her weight class, which is 115 pounds. And it was short notice. So unfortunately for Elise Reed, that is how she got into the UFC. It wasn't a great showing, but obviously they give everybody a second chance when they do them that favor. Elise is very active. She never slows down. She's got really good power for her size. She's got decent grappling and very good cardio. And I think this is a good test for her because I think you honestly can just ignore the Eubanks fight. It was a mismatch. It was unfair, short notice, size difference. Just ignore that. And then, this is her real test to see, is she UFC caliber? And Corey McKenna is a big test because she's very well-rounded. She's got a ton of fun to watch. She literally does everything. She'll march forward, throwing solid 1-2s. If you guys remember Vitor Belfort back in the day when he knocked out Vanderlei Silva, just running forward like this. Corey McKenna will do that. She'll do Superman punches. She'll throw head kicks. I've seen her double leg opponents, pick them up clear in the air, slam them down. We've seen a ton of submissions from her, a ton of strikes. She's incredibly well-rounded. She can be hittable, though, so she does need to clean that up. But she's tough, and she is so busy that it makes people work very, very hard. And this is another really fun fight on this card. Both of these women love coming forward and pushing a pace. Elise Reed lets her hands fly and has real power. Corey also loves to engage. She is pretty hittable, so that could be a problem, especially with somebody like Elise who has power. But I think Corey's willingness to work in the takedowns will be the difference here. I like Corey to win. She's only 22. This is absolutely the biggest fight of her life. So hopefully she doesn't freeze up, big lights, all that stuff. But, the odds I think are a bit wide. I think this is another really close fight. But I do think Corey's more well-rounded, has more tools. And I like Corey to win this fight. Well, what do you think, Jiggy boy?
Yeah, I actually agree with you, especially with the odds, too. I think the odds kind of are a little wide, a little bit crazy. Corey should be the favorite, but honestly, it should be probably like a minus 125. It should be close to a pick'em in this fight because Ellis Reed, you mentioned that last fight. I'm going to start using that. I know I'm going to use that next time we break down Ryan Hall and be like, yeah, his last fight, you could just ignore that one. That doesn't even count. It's just funny, but she really did get dominated in that fight by Sajura, and that's, I think, the path of victory to Corey. If this is just a straight distance kickboxing fight, Elise Reed's going to win that fight. She knows how to manage her distance. She does have the power. She posted a video on her Instagram, I think, of her hitting a heavy bag, and it was terrifying. It looked like Floyd Mayweather hitting a heavy bag, which I know he doesn't have a ton of power, but the way that you just see the power she was laying into that thing was crazy. So if this is just a simple kickboxing match, she should dominate. Honestly, she should dominate at range. But if Corey can make this dirty, use some dirty boxing, as you mentioned, kind of blitz forward, get this fight to the ground, that's where she should be able to win the fight. So honestly, this is more of a pick'em. Corey should be the favorite because she's got a little bit better path to victory with the wrestling, because we saw Reed really not be able to do anything down there. Even if you're someone's heavier, you should at least look like you know what you're doing. She looked like she didn't even know what to do down there. So that's your path to victory if you're Corey in this matchup. And if you want to try to strike at a distance with her, you might get knocked out. So my pick is Corey in this matchup, but Reed is definitely alive in the striking.
Yeah, I completely agree. She's definitely not getting the credit she deserves. And there's obviously, if any sport is what have you done for me lately, it is absolutely MMA. And Elise Reed, unfortunately, hasn't done much lately.
And Corey's,
so she's not really...
Corey also trains at Team Alpha Male.
Alpha Male.
She's at a real camp.
And honestly, training at Team Alpha Male, I think that's just going to reinforce the wrestling. We've seen her. Go watch some rotation. She literally double-legging people in the air, slamming them down. And Team Alpha Male is only going to help with that. So we're on the same side of the pick here. $8,800. I think the odds are close. $8,800. I just can't get that double leg out of my head. Just picked her clean up. You do not see women do that. Picked her clean up from under the butt and dumped her. That's 5 points right there, plus busy as hell on top. And Elise can definitely be overpowered when she's on bottom. We just saw that happen. So $8,800 might actually be worth it if Corey gets it to the ground. Team Alpha Male is only going to help with the wrestling, which she already was a wrestler. That's only going to help. So that may be worth it. You shook your head no. I'm assuming you don't like $8,800.
No, because I think this is a pick. If she was like 82, 83, I think that's the value in her. 88, she could. She could absolutely do what Eubanks did. But I think she's going to try and fight at distance at the start, and it could find herself in a little bit of a tizzy.
Well, and this sounds like a shameless plug, but this is a perfect fight, again, for Odds Jam. Because if you go to oddsjam.com, you click on this fight, they literally use AI and their mathematical calculations to say what the best odds should be. And as soon as a book updates their odds to be that or better, it's immediately highlighted and you're notified. And Corey McKenna, let's say she works her way down to somehow on some sleeper book or something happens and her odds work down a little bit, I'll hit it. I am pretty confident in her. I think it's a close fight, but I am pretty confident in her to get this done. And Monkey Knife Fight, 88 to 52. 52 is funny because we know Chris, who makes these monkey knife fight lines. He's got no data to work with here because Elise Reed was dominated in 2 minutes. So he just threw that 52 out there. So 88-52, I think it's a close fight, meaning, like you said, Elise Reed, if she kickboxes on the outside, that's her fight. If Corey McKenna closed the distance, that's her fight. So it's close in that they both have a path. But I don't think it's actually close when they get out there if Corey starts grappling, and I think she will. So I actually think it's either a less or something close to that, because I think Corey can just control her, dominate, pound away on top. And 88 strikes, a lot of strikes when we just saw Elise Reed get completely dominated in grappling. What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably a less play because even if Corey doesn't, let's say she can't even get the takedowns, I think she's physical enough and can control the clinch well enough to maybe even just hold her against the cage if she needs to and just kind of work the dirty boxing from there. So, yeah, it's probably a less play.
Yeah, so I'll probably hit that up. But you want to hit us up for 50 free bucks? Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. And then let us know after you do. Right there on our website, there's a claim your free money form. Fill it out. The email comes to me, and I go ahead and I get you paid. wewantpicks.com/bets. And that takes us to Jack Shore versus Timur Valiev. Honestly, I am surprised this is so low in the fight lineup. Jack Shore, undefeated, crazy hyped, giant fan base. I'm shocked that he's, what are we, 4 fights in?
This should be the featured prelim.
I agree. I am shocked that this is so
if
low.
Not the opening fight of the main card. I mean, this is a big fight versus two. I mean, these 2 contenders, and they're both fun to watch. So,
no, I completely agree. It's shockingly early in the fight card, but we've got Jack Shore taking on Timur Valiev. Jack Shore 15-0, 5-0 in his last 5, coming off that win over Ludovic Shalinian. Timur Valiev, 18-2 overall, 4-0-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off a fight of the night, and it was a win over Hani Barcelos. Jack Shore is a very good grappler. He likes to move forward. He's constantly looking for a takedown. Both wrestling and striking are similar come-forward styles for him. He also has surprisingly fast kicks for a grappler. He's coming off, I said the word close win when I did quick picks. I said he's coming off a close win over Ludovic Shalinian, who stepped up on short notice. And people were not happy that I said it was close. People were not happy. Comments left and right. It was 30-27, blah, blah, blah. Here's the reality, though. Here's the reality. Jack only went 2 for 8 on takedowns. 2 for 8 against a short notice, last-minute replacement. So to me, yes, he won the fight, and he wasn't necessarily in danger of losing that. But I don't think he looked fantastic when all the same people that are telling me I'm crazy for saying it was quote-unquote close, I guarantee those people were saying Jack Shore is going to submit Ludovic Shalinian inside of 2 minutes. I guarantee those are the same people. Then I start getting comments when I say, okay, here's the stats. 2 of 8 for takedowns. 2 of 8. Then I start getting comments, well, he hurt his shoulder was hurt. So, lots of hate coming my way, and we just got one of those in the comment. Didn't he have a busted shoulder, Sean V? So anyway, people did not like that I said Jack Shore's last fight was close, and maybe it wasn't close like he was about to lose a decision, nail-biting, but that was supposed to be a one-sided early submission beating. And he's taking on Timur Valiev. He's a very good wrestler, but in his last fight, he actually showed us how good of a striker he can be when he fought Hani Barcelos. Before that, he beat Martin Day with 4 takedowns, 11 minutes of control time. He looked very good in his UFC debut against Trevin Jones, but he faded when he couldn't get the stoppage, and then he was stopped. It's technically a no contest because Trevin Jones popped for some weed. But all in all, he's a very good...
Stay off the weed.
All in all, he is a very good grappler. He's got solid striking. His cardio can be questionable at times. And I'm torn on this fight. I'm a big Timur guy. I picked Timur to beat Hani Barcelos. You could argue he shouldn't have won that fight. It was a razor-thin fight, but I did pick him to win, and technically he won that fight. But he did go 0 for 6 on takedowns in that fight, and he was knocked down twice. Jack Shore did not look great in his last fight either. He had a short notice opponent in Ludovic Shalinian. I said he only went 2 for 8 in takedowns. So we have 2 primary grapplers that in their last fight had to go to plan B, which is striking. And if you look at their plan Bs, I think Timur's the much better striker than Jack Shore is. I don't even know if that's close. So, I hate factoring anything in other than skill or technique or how fighters stack up against each other. But I do think Jack fighting in London gives him like a tiny little slight edge. And the fact that Trevin Jones actually took Timur down tells me it's just a little tiny whisper of razor thin. I'm going to give this to Jack Shore. But holy crap, is Timur Valiev good. Super live in this fight. Frankly, Timur should win. I think these odds are actually correct. These odds have moved throughout the week. I think these odds right now are correct with Timur as a favorite, but this is super slight. I hate to factor in hometown crowd, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, though. I think Jack Shore, razor thin win. What's your stupid face for? What?
Here's a quote real quick.
Jesus Christ.
I'm a wrestler. All my life I've trained in wrestling. I was on the Ukrainian national team. I'm a national champion in Ukraine for wrestling. Of course, now I've improved all my skills, but first is wrestling. I can strike, but in doubt or hesitation, I go to wrestling. Do you know who that quote's
Was
from?
that Jack Shore?
That was Jack Shore's last opponent, who you said, he only got 2 of 8 takedowns. The fact that he got 2 takedowns on this guy, and that guy did not take him down, is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Going into that fight, I don't know why you're laughing. Going into that fight, his Jack Shore's coaches literally said Jack Shore can defend a takedown versus anyone. We're not worried about this guy, Ukrainian national wrestling team wrestler. He's not going to be able to take Jack Shore down. And he wasn't able to take Jack Shore down. Jack Shore was able to take him down, which was very surprising to a lot of people because Jack Shore, you mentioned the striking, grew up a kickboxer. He started kickboxing at 6 years old. He picked up wrestling later, and if you listen to the commentary, a lot of people are saying it's very GSP-like, the way he picked up the wrestling and how technical he is and how smooth in the transition he is in the wrestling to the grappling, to the submissions. Listen, I like Timur. His I think his 2 losses, he has a split decision loss, and he lost his very first pro fight, which was a single round, a 10-minute single round. He lost a decision, which is like the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Trevin Jones knocked him out. It's really 3 losses.
Okay. I forgot about the day off though. But yeah, so he's a very, very good fighter. I think if this was just a straight wrestling match, I think Timur would dominate the wrestling match if it was just straight up wrestling. But this is MMA wrestling. There's a few fights like this where there's a better wrestler, but there's a little bit better MMA wrestler, and I think Jack Shore all the way is the better MMA wrestler, the better grappler in this matchup. I think he's the better striker as well. I honestly think he's better everywhere except for maybe the pure wrestling, but he's just so slick in his transitions. Listen, guys, 15-0 underdog. You guys know he was my lock of the week for like a half an hour doing my research. I looked at this fight and I'm like, okay, Jack Shore is my lock of the week. And then I found another fight that I like a little bit more. But if I have a backup lock of the week, if something happens in my lock of the week, it's definitely Jack Shore. I love him in this matchup. I don't think he's going to get out wrestled. And I think that's the only way that Timur can win. And Jack Shore's got cardio for days. So I'm Jack Shore 110%. I think he should be a minus 150 favorite. I already put him in a parlay as well.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously we both like Jack Shore, but I am like tiny little edge to Jack Shore. Just a tiny bit. You're all over him. I mean, Timur's very, very, very freaking good. And I've already referenced it once, but do I reference Tagir again, Ulanbekov? Because this could be similar where Timur's the better wrestler, but maybe Jack Shore's the one shooting the takedowns and getting the takedowns, and all of a sudden Jack Shore looks like the better wrestler with the more control. So, I think it's razor thin. I do like Jack Shore to win. I think the hometown crowd and Timur's not so great cardio are big factors here. $7,600 in DraftKings is probably money well spent. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, he was almost my lock of the week, so I'll probably put him on lock. I see him offensive wrestling and having success. Maybe not early, but I think he just wears Timur down and finds success later. And if he needs a strike, he's got a fantastic 1-2 you're going to see. Boom, boom.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because before I did the breakdown and really dug into the research, I already had a check mark next to Timur's name. And then when I started digging in...
No, and then I'm very convincing. So
I said it before you talked, you moron.
Yeah.
But then when I did the research, watched the tape, and just, I like watching people's losses, and Timur doesn't lose well. He doesn't lose well. So anyway, Jack Shore's both of our picks. Monkey knife fight. What are you thinking there, man? I think it's a war. I think it's a straight up war.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of attempted grappling. They're going to be forced to strike because neither one of them can take each other down, especially in the beginning. So I think it's definitely a more.
Yep, I agree with more at Monkey Knife Fight. That's weonpicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit. Make it. Use the free money. Play some of these lines. This is another one. I keep plugging it, but oddsjam.com. Jack Shore plus 110. There's some books sleeping on him. He may end up plus 120, plus 130 on some books. And I tell you guys all the time, the books have no loyalty to you. You don't need to have loyalty to them. You should literally be signed up with if you're in a state that has sort of legalized sports betting, you should be ready to go with every single one of them. And if not, use the offshore. The offshores are literally legal as well. They're very legal. They're just, it's just different. It's like when you gamble on a cruise. It's perfectly legal to do it because you're not on U.S. soil. So anyway, you should have accounts with all the books, and Odds Jams will help you monitor all of those odds live. And as soon as you see one that you like, as soon as one makes a lot of sense because, Jack Shore ballooned up the plus 120, bang. Let me hit it before it goes back down and moves the other way. So check that out at oddsjam.com and check us out at weonpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit, and I'll give you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. And that takes us to another interesting fight on this card. This is one, I already broke this down earlier in this week, and I'm honestly might change my pick. This is such a crazy fight to do, but I do already have a bet on it. We've got Nikita Krylov versus Paul Craig. Nikita Krylov is 27-8 overall. He's 2-3 in his last 5. He is alternating wins and losses. Paul Craig is 15-4 overall, 4-0-1 in his last 5, coming off a first-round submission win over Jamal Hill. And Nikita Krylov is really well-rounded. He has very good wrestling, very good striking. He has nice forward pressure, and he mixes in punches and kicks really well. You can really see how he puts it all together. Just go watch his head kick knockout of Ed Herman. He literally started a boxing exchange, entered with that, and he ended it at close range with a head kick that just put Ed Herman out cold. It was just crazy watching that. And he did all of that while moving forward. He didn't back up at all. Ed Herman didn't run into that. He isn't just a striker, though. He's got solid takedowns. He averages more than 1 takedown per fight. And he can really do something around. I think he took Glover down in that fight as well. Paul Craig is a grappler who is very dangerous on the ground, and he's proven to be incredibly tough. He actually beat Magomed Ankalaev, the winner of last week's card, with literally 1 second left. And I'm not exaggerating. The official fight time of when Ankalaev tapped out to Paul Craig was 14 minutes and 59 seconds, which is brutal. That's going to haunt him. His last
I don't
fight.
think it's haunting him.
No. A whole article I read. He doesn't sleep. Okay. It's a whole thing. It's really he's
it would have been good information for last week then, because that was a little iffy there for a while, and that was probably why, because he had other things on his mind.
See, exactly. And in his last fight, he basically pulled guard against Jamal Hill, threw up that armbar. A lot of people say he broke his elbow. I've said that in the past, but technically he just dislocated. But it was fast. It was crazy, and he put an end to that fight inside of 2 minutes. And essentially, if he has any room to grapple whatsoever, you need to worry about it because his striking is just okay, and he's not much of a threat as far as the striking is concerned. But my God, if this guy's on the ground, he could absolutely make something happen immediately. And when I first did this breakdown, the odds had Krylov as pretty much a 2-1 favorite. They're still holding strong. Even though I see a ton of people loving Paul Craig here, it's not enough to actually move these odds. And it does feel a little wide to me. So I think Krylov is the more well-rounded fighter overall. He's the less dangerous fighter. Sorry, he's the less dangerous fighter as well, meaning he's more well-rounded. He has more tools, but he's not necessarily the one that's live for a stoppage. Paul Craig is. And Paul Craig's proven to be ridiculously tough, never out of a fight. So I think Paul Craig can withstand the Nikita Krylov beating and let this go to a decision, or if it gets to a round, get a stoppage there. And this is such a tough fight to pick because I see Krylov only being able to win a decision. I don't see Krylov being able to put Craig out. I think his only path is a decision, and I think he can do that. He's got good wrestling. just avoid some of the submissions. He's got very good hands, certainly better than Paul Craig's. Paul Craig is super dangerous on the ground. Is he going to initiate a bunch of takedowns? He may have to, because I don't know if Nikita's going to shoot him down. So my pick when I first did this the other day was Paul Craig. But here's what I've done. My actual pick to win this fight, after just digging in and really grinding through, is Nikita Krylov. But I placed a bet on Daniel Craig. I did wins inside the distance. Decision
Daniel
no
Craig.
action. Paul Craig, just so handsome, so British. Paul Craig to win inside the distance, decision no action. What that means is if Paul Craig wins by submission or TKO, anything, any way like that, I will get played. And I got plus 200. Go check it out. I don't know if the book is wrong. I did this on Bet Online. So if you go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, I did it with Bet Online. Right now, wins inside a distance, decision no action for Paul Craig. Maybe that's why I got plus 200. It was Daniel Craig. For Paul Craig is plus 200. So if he wins by stoppage, I get 2 times my money. If he loses a one-sided decision because Nikita sticks and moves and avoids whatever, I get my money back. Nothing ever happened. So I'm loving that bet. 2 times my money. Honestly, guys, check that out now before that moves, because I think most of you would agree Paul Craig basically wins by submission or he doesn't win. At the very least, he'll survive and not get stopped himself. So check that out. WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners, but Bet Online is the only partner that offers this bet. I hit it. I got plus 200, and I did that like 3 or 4 hours ago. Jakey boy, what do you think?
I think that you are getting like incredibly soft with these picks. It seems like every single fight now you're like, I think this, but maybe this, and just make a decision and stick to it. Is all I ask. And Paul Craig's going to win this fight. I'm worried about a Joel Alvarez situation. Paul Craig, so this is another one of those fights where I think if this was just a complete wrestling match, I think Nikita Krylov wins that, right? If you look at his losses, his last 3 losses are to Jan, a former champ, Glover, the champ, and Ankalaev, who is probably a future champ. If you also dig into his losses, because he is a wrestler, you'll see submission loss. You'll see a 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 submission. I think he has 7 submission losses, and that just doesn't bode well against Paul Craig. Like I said, I mentioned the Joel Alvarez situation because if you're Paul Craig, I don't want you pulling guard immediately, right? The first shot that Nikita comes across with, don't pull guard immediately while you guys are dry. And he can still control the position. You're too good to do that. You can defend takedowns a hell of a lot better than Joel Alvarez, as we found out, but you can defend takedowns if you need to. Make them work a little bit, get some sweat. Try to win some scrambles, but don't just get in this situation where you see a guillotine, you jump on it, you're holding on to it, you're blowing your arms out, and then you're getting elbowed in the forehead. So, Paul Craig is my pick just because I think he's a little bit slicker on the ground. He's willing to take those chances, but I want him to try and win the scrambles. Don't settle for those submission, thinking, now that he's in my guard, I can throw up a triangle. I want offensive grappling. I want offensive submissions, something on top, a head and arm while you're controlling positions. Then you work for submissions. I don't want this pulling guard nonsense. If he stays away from that, I think he should win this fight. Maybe not easily, but I think he has opportunities to find the submission. So my pick is going to be Paul Craig. Not quite the lock. I know I put up a poll and everyone was voting for my lock of the week. Everyone voted for Paul Craig was the winner of that poll. So he's not my lock of the week, but I like him to win this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting fight. I had him winning the fight, but I was like, you know what, man? I can't just put an entire pick on it has to get to the ground and he has to win by submission. I hate when fighters literally only have one way to win a fight. And Paul Craig only has one way to win this fight. With that being said, he's very live. He's done it 1,000,000 times over. And plus 200, I freaking love that bet. I love that bet. So inside the distance decision, no action on Paul Craig.
I honestly could see Paul Craig winning scrambles and Krylov being good enough to not get submitted, but Paul Craig winning a decision. I can see that happening too. I don't think it's all submission or bust. Well, no, I'm not talking about your bet. I'm just talking about the fight in general. I'm just saying, because you were saying that he only has one path to victory. I think he has submission or he can win a decision.
Yeah.
So I like the bet. I like the bet.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Someone in the live chat, Vig, is arguing with me about the bet. You must have misunderstood me, man. The bet is as simple as if Paul Craig wins by submission or knockout, I double my money, I get paid. If Paul Craig loses a decision, wins a decision, if the fight goes through decision in any way whatsoever, I get a full refund. No bet ever happened. I get a full refund. The only way I lose money is if Nikita Krylov stops Paul Craig. That's literally the only way I lose money. Otherwise, I get a refund or I make money. Such a safe bet at plus 200. You almost never see odds like that on that bet because there is a big cushion. It's a big safety net there. So I love that. You like Paul Craig to win, so we'll both be rooting for him, even though I think Nikita's probably going to win a decision, but I will be screaming for Paul Craig to rip his arm off. I don't care if I get the pick wrong for my pick stats if I can make some real money.
You know that was funny about that Jamal Hill thing, because after you snap somebody's arm, he almost looked at the ref like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I have him in this position. So there's like a dangling arm he's holding on to, so he's like, all right, so he just starts throwing elbows, but it was kind of like the fight's supposed to be over, so what's going on?
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. You know, I'll be rooting for a stoppage, even though I don't think it's as likely. And what do you think of DraftKings? I'm assuming $7,500 is worth it for you.
Yeah, there's a few people right around that range, so I'm gonna have to pick one. I think I have one slot for like 3 people right around that range, so we'll see what comes. Because I know Jack Shore was $7,600, so it just depends on how we see, as you mentioned, weigh-ins and everything else.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna do Paul Craig in my DraftKings lineup because, he could certainly pay for himself with a submission, but I've already got that bet on him. I'm not going to do my DraftKings praying for Paul Craig to win by submission as well. I just don't. I don't see that happening here. So I'm not going to spend the $7,500, but it is good value if you're on the. I see a bunch of you in the live chat talking about he's definitely going to submit him immediately. Blah blah blah. So if you're on that side, $7,500 a bargain. Monkey Knife Fight's interesting. I do think it's more and more because I think this is more likely to go to a decision than it is to be a stoppage. So I think it's probably more and more.
Yeah, it's probably more and more.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, we're aligned on that. And if you want to align yourself with $50 free, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. We have 5 different betting partners. Sign up, make a deposit with any of them. Let me know after you do, and I send you $50. You do all 5 of them, then I owe you $250. wewantpicks.com/bets. And this is another interesting fight, man. We have a bunch of fighters on this card that are coming back after a year layoff, 2-year layoffs. And this is another one. We've got Sergey Pavlovich taking on Shamil Abdurakhimov. Shamil Abdurakhimov is 20-6 overall. He's 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off 2 stoppage losses in a row. Sergey Pavlovich, 14-1 overall. 4-1 in his last 5, but he is coming off a 2-year layoff. Shamil is a solid boxer with good counter strikes. He's got solid wrestling as well. He's somewhat of an accomplished wrestler, and he has had mixed success in the UFC. He took down Derek Lewis 4 times in that loss, and Andrei Arlovsky twice in a win. His chin hasn't really held up as much as I'm sure he'd like it to, but he is past the 40-year-old mark, and he still hits hard, though, so he's still live on his side. Sergey Pavlovich, he's a fantastic striker. He's mostly a boxer, though, but he has really good power in his hands and incredible speed for a heavyweight. His striking volume is impressive, and he just trusts his chin. He leaves his chin out there. He trusts it. He just stands in the pocket and just bombs away. It has been over 2 years since we've seen Sergey Pavlovich fight, which always makes breakdowns like this really hard, because is he as fast as he was when he beat Maurice Green? Is his takedown defense better than it was against Alistair Overeem? Like, we just don't know, and we're not going to know until we see him fight. But we have to make assumptions, and I have to assume that he's at least the same person that he was 2 years ago, and he's not, hopefully he's better, but he's not worse. And that person from 2 years ago, the last time we saw Sergey fight, that guy can beat Shamil Abdurakhimov. Shamil will likely look to wrestle. He'll probably have some success, but just like the Derek Lewis fight, I think he'll struggle to keep Sergey down, and he'll end up getting knocked out. So I like Sergey Pavlovich, but this is another let's watch the scale fight. The guy has not fought in 2 years, and he's a heavyweight. He could look in shape. He could be a sloppy mess. It's been 2 full years. He was a killer when he was fighting, though, and maybe he still is. What the hell are you shaking your stupid head for? What?
It's been 2 years, but he had like 4 fights get canceled in that time. So he's in camps, he's getting ready for fights, they drop. He's getting ready for another fight, it drops. He literally, I think it was 4, maybe even 5 fights that have dropped in the last 2 years. So it's not like there's a big gap of nothing. He's been trying to find fights. I'm sure he's been in camps over and over and over. So I have no issues with Sergey having that layoff. If there was nothing in between, if there was injuries, this and that. But he was obviously training that entire time, and he should have no issues in this fight. That last fight that Shamil had versus Dawkins was kind of interesting because Mark Smith, the referee, I think wanted to kind of punish Shamil and almost looked like he wanted him to die because he got flatlined. And then Mark Smith was just like, go ahead and hit him a few more times because at the start of that round, Dawkins went to glove touch with them, and I think he threw an inside leg kick when Dawkins was trying to glove touch him, and Dawkins gave him the finger and was like, "Fuck you, man." And I honestly think Mark Smith saw that and was like, "Yeah, take care of him." He disrespected you, so put a few more shots in him. He got absolutely flatlined. He has nothing special on the feet. He does have a little bit of wrestling, but I don't think that's going to be any issues for Sergey in this matchup. Sergey's going to have the power. He's going to have the precision. He's going to have the speed in this matchup. Shamil should have nothing for him. This is actually going to be probably a not as popular parlay piece, but I think Sergey is definitely a parlay piece if you're looking for a favorites parlay or something to kind of anchor your parlay. He should have no issues with Shamil in this matchup. Obviously, it's heavyweights. Anything can happen when those fists start flying, but Sergey is definitely the much better fighter in this matchup. So I'm Sergey all the way.
Yeah, listen, I don't. I completely agree with literally everything you're saying. My only concern is 2 years. You know what I mean? Two years is a long time, and you just don't know. It's just hard to know how somebody's going to look like after 2 years off. And these are heavyweights; they are going to bomb away.
He wasn't sitting on the couch for 2 years. Jesus Christ!
Just because he had a fight book, he still didn't fight. He hasn't getting hit in the mouth. He hasn't stepped in a cage. Full years.
Probably not. No, they don't spar. That's not a thing.
Grow up.
For
All
sure.
right, Jacob. Big Jacob.
He's. I guess everyone does the Max Holloway.
Forever.
I don't spar anymore. That's what. Yeah, nobody spars.
No, Jacob definitely knows. He's been around the sport this long enough. I think it is more and more in monkey knife fight though. 5. What do you think?
It's been 4 fights that he tried. Oh no, hold on. Three fights.
Okay, 3 fights booked in 2 years.
And one of them was supposed to be Serial Gone, and then it was supposed to be Tom Aspinall. So I mean, he was up there in level
first
competition.
First of all, you say Serial. Second of all, you don't know why those fights didn't happen.
Yeah,
just because
the first one is this Gone one is because Sergey had an injury. The second one was Sergey had visa issues.
Okay.
And the other one, Tanner Boser, was it was also travel issues.
Okay.
So we'll see. Hopefully he's already in London. For the love of God, hopefully he's already there. But he was definitely supposed to fight, and then a week before the fight, he had visa issues, and that was 2 of those were September of this year, September and then December. So very, very recent. He's going to be ready to go. He's going to knock him out.
Okay. Well, anyway, we're both rooting for the same guy. We're just arguing with freaking the wall. Anyway, $9,000 in DraftKings, probably worth it. Probably worth it. There's probably a stoppage, probably a knockout, so you'll get those bonus points. You agree with that statement, Jacob?
Bitcoin's up 7%.
Okay.
What'd you say?
And then monkey knife fight, more or less, what do you think here? I mean, Shamil at 15.5 is such a low number, but his last 2 fights, I don't know if he got to that. What do you think?
Yeah, those Dawkins KOs too were like the spit flying out and everything. So if Sergey hits, he's going to drop quick. But those are such low numbers. Honestly, the safe play is probably more and more.
Yeah, I mean, these are heavyweights. I hate playing monkey knife fight strike lines for heavyweights, especially heavyweight strikers. The play is if you go to monkey knife fight, they have a prop game called Knockout Kings. You pick any 3 fighters. You put them in your Knockout Kings. If one of them wins by KO or TKO, you 25% your profit. If 2 wins, you 2.5 times your money. If 3 wins, you 6 times your money. Check it out. It's actually super fun, super easy. Last week was crazy with Pereira and Bruno Silva, but there should be a KO or 2 on this card, and definitely have Sergey Pavlovich in that. That's a monkey knife fight for WeWantPicks.com/MKF. They'll match your deposit. Use the deposit match. Play some Knockout Kings and see where that gets you. And if you want 50 free bucks, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do, and I will send you $50. And that takes us to a couple of grapplers. We have Mike Grundy taking on Makwan Amirkhani. Mike Grundy is 12-3 overall. He is 3-2 in his last 5, and he's making his return after almost a year layoff. Makwan Amirkhani is 16-7 overall. He is only 1-4 in his last 5, riding a very unfortunate 3-fight losing skid. Mike Grundy's a big-time chain wrestler. He just comes forward. He looks for takedowns at all costs. His striking only exists to set up takedowns, and that was never more obvious than in his loss to Valiev. He took Valiev down 6 times, but he was still outstruck 79-20. Similar story when he took down Landa Venata 3 times, but was outstruck 80-32. So he taking these people down on top, controlling them, doing work, and still getting hit 3-4 times more than he's hitting them. He is very busy, he is very powerful, and he is relentless with his wrestling. Makwan Amirkhani is better than his UFC run, or at least his recent UFC run. He's a good grappler that averages more than 4 takedowns per fight himself. He was just KO'd by Lerone Murphy, but he was dominating that fight up until the KO. He's typically a durable guy with decent striking and okay cardio. He's definitely closer to a first-round fighter than a 3-round fighter, but he can push a pace when he needs to. You could argue in this matchup that he actually should be the favorite because of how well-rounded he is, but it looks like the odds makers just don't trust his recent record. By plus 140, they just saw the 1-4 in his last 5 and leaned it that way. And I do think this fight comes down to discipline. I think whoever is disciplined enough to just straight up wrestle, not engage with the striking, will win, because Mike Grundy is not a very good striker. So if he looks to strike, he's going to lose a striking match. If Amirkhani, who is the better striker, looks to strike with Grundy, Grundy's just going to drop and shoot. And he's going to get even more takedowns there because Amirkhani is striking and leaving openings. So again, I think literally whoever is disciplined enough to just immediately start shooting is going to win this fight. Whoever's first to the legs is going to win this fight. And I think that's got to be Mike Grundy. I mean, you watch Mike Grundy fights. He has no desire to do anything other than grapple. Nothing. He wants nothing to do with the striking. He's just looking to grapple. So I trust him and his discipline to just be diving at legs, shooting a million takedowns. I think Makwan Amirkhani is a very capable grappler, very capable wrestler, very capable striker, but just non-stop wrestling from Mike Grundy, I think, will be enough to get it done. And this is kind of a crazy comparison, right? But this is like a Arkansas wrestling, Bryce versus Barboza, because Barboza was the better, more well-rounded fighter, but that non-stop wrestling was enough.
Stop.
Break down this fight, please.
Don't you ever, and this is 100%, don't you ever mention Arkansas wrestling. Don't you put people inside of Arkansas. That is the most disrespectful shit I've ever heard. Trying to put Mike Grundy into Arkansas wrestling. I think he loses this matchup. If this was a straight wrestling match, this is another one of those examples. If this was a straight wrestling match, Mike Grundy's credentials can go up against probably almost anyone's in the UFC, right? He's like just a crazy national world champion wrestler. So if this was a straight wrestling match, and it's probably going to end up being a grappling match, but if this is a straight wrestling match, he should dominate. And since this is going to be a wrestling match, mostly a grappling match with his credentials, he honestly should be probably a minus 300 favorite against a 16-7 Amirkhani. But the odds are a little bit closer than what people than what it should be, because Amirkhani is so talented. You see a 16-7 record. Amirkhani, I mean, that's the best 16-7 fighter you will ever see in your life. His losses are to Arnold Allen, who we'll see later, a split decision to Arnold Allen. You know, Shane Burgos, Edson Barbosa, Quimella Kirk, Lerone Murphy. He was dominating that fight. I picked him in his last fight. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to do, dominating that first round, and then just ran face first into a knee, which wasn't his best decision he's ever made. So he ended up getting knocked out, but he was well on his way to dominate the grappling in this matchup. And when it comes to the grappling, again, I see him kind of in that same situation at last fight, that he's a better MMA grappler. Right? He's just a little bit slicker in those scrambles, in those transitions. He's a little bit more fluid, where Mike Grundy is just the wrestler, the chain. He does have very good chain wrestling. Boom, boom, boom. But Amirkhani has weird, different scrambles that is more tailored to MMA rather than just strictly wrestling. So, you know, if you're on the Mike Grundy side, I get it. He is the better wrestler. And if this is just wrestling, he should pretty much, he should dominate the matchup. But this is MMA, and there are factors. And people have mentioned in the chat, Grundy can get a little chinny. I'm going Amirkhani in this matchup. I don't think it's too much of a flyer. I just think he's a little bit slicker in the grappling, and if he can keep this on the feet, he's got the advantage. So I'm going Amirkhani. I don't feel great about it, but I like him in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue. I mean, because frankly, I
wouldn't. I mean, that's probably a good idea.
Because frankly, I said Amirkhani's the more talented fighter, but Mike Grundy is just so good at one thing, and he's relentless with that one thing. And I think that's going to be the difference here. I think he's just going to shoot, takedown. And, Mike Grundy can be chinny, but so can Amirkhani. So, he is typically a durable guy, but he's got a couple of KO losses in that 7 there. So I like Mike Grundy to get it done. You like Amirkhani to get it done. I think we both think it's a closer fight. And frankly, like I said, I think whoever starts wrestling first wins. Because if Amirkhani starts throwing a jab out there, Mike Grundy's boom, shooting, done. Like, you can be positive that Mike Grundy's going to start shooting no matter what. You can be positive on that. There's no debating. So either Amirkhani is able to defend those shots and keep it on his feet, or initiates his own takedowns before Mike Grundy can get his wheels going. And that's why I just think Mike Grundy will get to the legs first, but I'm not going to argue with anybody that says Amirkhani will win, because he's obviously very talented, very good everywhere, including accomplished wrestler, grappler, very good striker. So, do you like him enough to put him in your DraftKings lineup at $7,700?
Again, this is one of those guys. So we have him at $7,700. We have Paul Craig at $7,500, and then we have Jack Short $7,600. And I like them all to win. So it's going to be a game time decision. I can really only pick one, maybe two, if I set my lineup right. But it's going to be definitely one of those three. It might be Amirkhani. But if the people that could get dominated, obviously they're all against wrestlers. They're all kind of grapplers against wrestlers. And honestly, a lot of times I'm wrong in that. When I love to pick the jiu-jitsu guys against the wrestlers, because I just feel like they're a little bit more dangerous. But honestly, they get controlled a lot in those matchups. So I'm on like three kind of more MMA guys as opposed to wrestlers. But Amirkhani is probably the one that could get dominated more than the other two. So he probably isn't the better value as far as if you're choosing between Paul Craig and Jack Shore as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And Mike Grundy at $8,500 is either the best money you ever spent or the worst, because, I mean, I rattled off the numbers. He got 6 takedowns against Valiev. Valiev is a freaking nasty wrestler, and he took him down 6 times. He took down Lando Venata 3 times. So, $8,500, he's probably going to end up being worth the money, because there's going to be a whole bunch of takedowns, a whole bunch of control time. And you guys know DraftKings loves takedowns and control time. So I like Mike Grundy. I'll probably spend the $8,500 in DraftKings as well. And Monkey Knife Fight Strike Line, I'm not going to touch it. Mike Grundy is going to decisions throwing less than 40 punches. So I'm not going to touch this Monkey Knife Fight Strike Line, because it may be a less more situation, and I can't say less under 39 when I think it's going to go to a decision. That just hurts my brain. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't like that strike line at all. I mean, this could end up being, there's a lot of good fights on the card. This could end up being wild scrambles fight of the night, where both guys are just completely gassed, just doing weird stuff, and then finally somebody finds a submission. So I don't like that Monkey Knife fight. Anything could happen in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty. I don't think anything can happen, but I hear what you're saying there.
But
and this
literally
is another
anything
one.
can happen. That's kind of how the world works. I don't think so.
But I do think this is another odds jam type fight. I'm going to keep an eye on odds jam here, because I like Mike Grundy enough. I don't like him enough to spend -160, but what odds jam does is they have APIs into all the sports books. They're constantly pulling out their odds. And as soon as odds move in the direction that they think it should, right? They're saying Mike Grundy should be a minus whatever. And as soon as it gets better than that, you get alerted. They tell you, it glows on the stream, so you know what book to go to and where to place that bet. So this is one that I will be watching on oddsjam.com, because if Mike Grundy gets better than -150, I will probably jump on that. I do trust him to get this done. Amirkhani, if you're on that side, same exact logic. Keep an eye on it. If you get him at +150, 60, 70, that's fantastic money. And who knows what the odds are going to do in the next coming days. Yeah. If you want free $50, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and we send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. And that takes us to Jai Herbert versus Ilia Topuria. Jai Herbert, 11-3 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, and he's coming off the TKO over Kama Worthy. Ilia Topuria is 11-0. 11-0, 5-0 in his last 5, coming off of the attempted murder of Ryan Hall. And Ilia is taking this on short notice. He is moving up a weight class as well, and he's still a massive favorite. So Ilia Topuria normally fights at 45, and this is obviously at 55. Jai Herbert is a pretty technical striker who likes to keep the fight at range. He has a ton of movement, and his feet are never planted for more than a half a second. He's always cutting angles. He's feinting and moving from side to side. And I would say that makes him an elusive target, but he does have a negative striking differential, which is surprising because if you watch him fight, his footwork is incredible, and he really is never in the same spot. So it's surprising he gets hit as much as he does. Ilia Topuria, he was supposed to fight back in January, but a couple of canceled fights later, and now he's taking a short notice fight against Jai. Ilia is a very well-rounded guy, and he is coming off 2 knockouts in a row, but he's a very good wrestler. He averages a little more than 3 takedowns per fight, and he also has a positive striking differential of 3-2. What makes him so impressive is he doesn't have a set game plan, meaning he will do an amazing job at wrestling in a fight. He'll do an amazing job at kickboxing in a fight, and he will just adapt to whatever fight he's in and make those adjustments. Jai Herbert will probably be the better striker here, probably be the better striker, the best striker that Ilia has ever fought. I don't even necessarily think that matters. I like Ilia to win a pretty straightforward fight. I think he will have some of his own success on the feet, and then he's going to look to grapple. Renato Moicano took down Jai Herbert 5 times. Francisco did it twice. They both stopped Jai Herbert. I think Ilia does more of the same, and I think he wins by stoppage. I think Ilia Topuria dominates Jai Herbert and is warranted this wide betting line. What do you think, Jacob?
I'm just so glad. I'm so glad that that video came out today to show how much of a coward Ilia Topuria is. I already knew it, but I'm just so glad that everyone else can see that. He showed up with his whole crew to try and box in Paddy in that situation. He had some issues with Paddy. And you know what he did? If you notice there was a situation where he's approaching the bar, right? There's a bar right here, Paddy's right here. He could have walked to the side Paddy was on. He could have easily just walked to the side Paddy was on, went face to face like a man, and confronted him. Instead, he kept the bar in between him and Paddy. You know why? Because he was terrified of the takedown. We're going to talk about Paddy later. He was terrified of the takedown, just like he was terrified of the Ryan Hall takedown. He talked for months. And first of all, we all know that was an early stoppage. I mean, everyone in the chat agrees that was an early stoppage. Ryan Hall was about to roll into a heel hook. The ref saw it coming, saved Ilia. They stopped the fight. Back to this fight. Actually, we're still on the Ryan Hall fight because he showed how much of a coward he was in that fight. He talked for months about how I'm not scared of Ryan Hall's jiu-jitsu. I train with black belts all the time. The second he was able to go into Ryan Hall's guard, he cheated. He started throwing punches. He started throwing elbows.
He cheated?
He just
Was
completely,
it a grappling match?
Yeah, he just completely bitched out of the opportunity of a lifetime to beat Ryan Hall in grappling. And he's just a coward. He's a coward. He's a cheat. And in this matchup, you know, we'll see what happens. He doesn't have any cardio. He's going to have the wrestling advantage. But Jai Herbert, this guy trains with Leon Edwards. He's a very, very, very good striker. He's a very confident striker as that. He knows his range. He knows when to enter in combos. He knows when to exit in combos. You know, he will chase a finish. The big thing for him here is don't circle to Ilia's power hand because Ilia does have power, allegedly. You know, it was kind of a cheap shot in his last fight, but apparently people think he has power. Don't circle to his power. Defend the takedowns, and you can win this fight because Ilia will get tired. You saw that against Zalal. Those last few shots that he was taking on Zalal were desperation shots, and he was getting on his legs. He was able to get them, but he was fighting for his life in that third round because he was exhausted. If Jai can get this to the third round, he can win this fight. My pick is not Jai Herbert, unfortunately. There's just a path to victory. Saw the cowardly ways of Ilia Topuria. He'll get the fight to the ground. He'll probably elbow him, maybe submit him. Unfortunately, I got to go with Ilia to win this fight.
Somebody literally in the live chat goes, "These guys are wrong. I'm gone because of your stupid I hate Ilia Topuria rant." Because people don't realize, not that it's an inside joke, but you're such a diehard Ryan Hall fan that you're you just have hatred for anybody who beat him, which is honestly going to be a very long list. That's going to be a lot of people to hate. So anyway, see a turd in the live chat that doesn't know how to get a joke. Jacob and I both taking Ilia Topuria here. He is just incredibly talented, honestly. He has decent enough striking to probably not get knocked out and very good wrestling to get this to the ground and do whatever the hell he wants to do there. $9,300, it's probably worth it. And I totally understand how good Jai Herbert is. His striking is very, very good. But just look at what, some of his recent opponents have done to him. And I just think it's literally more of the same. You agree? Are you going to spend $9,300? Let's say you're not a diehard Ryan Hall.
Hell no. I think these odds are crazy. This is short notice, up in weight against a very, very good striker. I think, honestly, these odds should be like, if I'm putting these odds, I'm a little biased. I'd put it minus 150 for Ilia. That's how I see it. So $9,300 is crazy for me.
Yeah, I think...
guy's a coward.
I think he wins, and I think he wins inside the distance. So I think he's probably worth $9,300.
I mean, he brought his whole crew. Like when I have arguments with people on Instagram, we set a date, we set a location. I show up by myself. He shows up by himself. We handle our business. I pick him up off the ground, and then we go our separate ways. The guy showed up with his whole crew and tried to intimidate somebody with a bad haircut, and I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks.
All right. Well, but first of all, that's a fantastic haircut. So get over that. Anyway,
did you buy the wig? He's got the wigs for sale.
Does he really?
Paddy wigs? Oh yeah, he started everyone in it. He's got his own like embedded vlogs that he wears, and everyone was put on. Molly McCann put it on. It was really funny. His coaches all had him on.
Yeah, and it is an atrocious haircut, but it's obviously working for him because it's just for marketing. I think more and more a monkey knife fight makes the most sense. I think Ilia still wins by stoppage, but I think there's a bunch of elbows, some striking. I mean, 28-43. I think Ilia gets some strikes in. What do you think?
Yeah, it's more and more.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Check out Monkey Knife Fight at weonpicks.com/MKF and check us out at weonpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and we will send you $50 as a thank you. It is that simple. We have Molly McCann taking on Luana Carolina. Molly McCann is 11-4 overall, 3-2 in her last 5, and she's coming off the fight of the night win over Kim 4 months ago. Luana Carolina's 8-2 overall, 4-1 in her last 5, coming off that short notice win over Lupita Godinez. Molly McCann is a fun, aggressive striker. I say striker, but it's really more of a boxer. She doesn't kick that much, but she likes to fight dirty inside the pocket. She also has nice takedowns that are well-timed, and she uses them really well to secure rounds and lock those in. She's a decision fighter, but she is technically sound and has plenty of cardio to push a pace. Luana Carolina is primarily a striker. She isn't the most technical with her punches, but she's fantastic in the clinch with knees and elbows. She's got the Muay Thai striking style, but she doesn't have that sort of high guard, bouncy Muay Thai stance. She is a striker. Her takedown defense is also very solid at 90%. And when she does get takedowns of her own, she is busy. When she does get taken down, she is busy. She's working for stand-ups, working for submissions, and does not just accept bottom. Most books have this fight as a pick'em when it opened. So this opened essentially as a pick'em, and the odds have floated a bit. Some money is coming in on Molly McCann. Molly McCann is now an okay-sized favorite. They're both busy strikers. Neither one of them have a ton of power, but they're dangerous. Molly has had success with takedowns, and Luana has specifically an 88% takedown defense. Molly's the cleaner boxer. Luana's the busier fighter, and she mixes in knees and kicks really well. I think this is a razor-thin fight. My gut told me Molly will win because her boxing is clean, and despite having low takedown accuracy, she does use them well to secure rounds. Yeah, Luana has that 88% takedown defense, and she was taken down in her last 2 fights, but she still did win those. I am going to do the Molly McCann side here, though. Very slight edge. She's the pick. I think she just has more output, and I think she's willing to engage the grappling if she needs to. I like Molly McCann to win this fight, but this is razor thin, and the opening odds, I think, were a little more accurate than these are now. What do you think?
Yeah, you mentioned the Muay Thai stance. Luana is actually like a Muay Thai champion, whatever division that was, or whatever. So she has very good experience in Muay Thai, but let's be honest, she's not very good. Her last fight versus Lupi was on 4 days notice. Had just fought the week before, was up in weight. Lupi was up in weight, came in the weighed in 122 for a 125 fight, was very, very much undersized, and absolutely dominated that first round. Just got inside, got dirty with Luana. Luana's one of those, with that Muay Thai, she doesn't really throw a jab out there, so she's very long, but she doesn't really use her length. I think that's going to be key in this matchup. If she wants to win, she's going to have to use her length against Molly McCann. Throw some jabs out there, keep Molly at distance, because if you get inside on Luana, you can just pick her up and slam her down. That's exactly what Lupi did. Eventually, because of the short nose, because she fought just literally a week before, because of the weight cut, Lupi was exhausted and couldn't get those takedowns because she was a smaller opponent, later in that fight, and Luana was able to, take advantage of that opportunity and end up winning a decision. But if you watch her, she's not a very fast striker. Obviously, she's not very good on the ground. She's got an 8-2 record, but I don't see anything special when I watch her. And Molly McCann is another one that you don't really see anything special, except for her toughness. She showed that in her last fight. She got dropped in that last fight, came back, won a decision. She loves that dirty boxing. She just loves that nasty fight. And she excels when she can win because of her heart, right? When she can just basically out-tough opponents with her boxing, with her grappling, get a couple takedowns. And I think this is a perfect matchup for her to be able to get inside of Luana, someone that is tall, lanky, but doesn't use her length. Get inside, get on those hips, get a couple takedowns. I think she can control the fight. I understand why the odds are widening. I think that this, I don't want to say it's going to be an easy fight. I think it's going to be a dog fight for Molly McCann. It's going to have to get dirty, but if it does, she's going to win that fight and she's going to win that decision. I'm all Molly McCann in this fight.
Yeah, so we're both on the Molly McCann fight, Molly McCann side. I do think it's a little closer. I think Luana's takedown defense could potentially be a problem here because I think Molly will end up looking for those
literally
takedowns.
just grabbed her and just threw her down. No issues. An undersized fighter. There's no issues.
Yeah, but I also think Lupita Godinez is a better wrestler grappler than Molly McCann is.
I don't think she needs to be on Lupi's level to. I mean, the ease at which she was able to do that was. You watch it later in the fight, and she couldn't take her down later in the fight, but she was exhausted, and she still nearly did. So.
I hear you. We're both on the same side. There's no point in arguing. But Luana has defended takedowns from many fighters. You're making it sound like if you sneeze too hard, she's going to fall over. And that's just not the case. Anyway, you're going to spend the $8,400 in DraftKings? I mean, frankly, she's probably worth it. That's basically even money as far as DraftKings is concerned.
That's going to be an interesting play. I'll see how the rest of the lineup stack up. But if you're looking for, I think that's pretty good value at $8,400, especially the odds are widening as well. So.
Yeah, and that's essentially even money with DraftKings. This is another Odds Jam plug, but Odds Jam, what they do is they have hooks into all of the sports books. They're constantly getting updated lines and updating numbers for every single fight, every single sport, but every single fight as well. The Molly McCann line is moving, so you may want to just jump in and hit that now before it does move even more, or you may want to monitor it on OddsJam and see if you might catch a dip somewhere. If some late money, some of these lines move a little too far. Molly McCann ends up minus 150, minus 160. A bunch of money will come in Luana, and then it'll do another swing. Or you'll catch a book sleeping, and that's what I love doing. And ever since I discovered OddsJam, you catch a book sleeping. They didn't update their line fast enough, and you can hit it and take advantage of that. So
I was about to put this in the chat. You know what this fight is going to be like? It's going to be like that not quite Miranda Maverick level, but I think Luana is going to be the exact same as like Sabina Mazo from last week. Just a little too slow. Looks like she's got tall range, just a little too slow in this matchup.
Yeah, I think the difference though is Molly just uses her wrestling to secure rounds. It's not her go-to. So, and she's very hittable. I mean, we had the stats here. She's hit 4.87 times per minute with significant strikes. She's very hittable. So she takes a beating, and you said she showed her toughness, which is great. But yeah, you don't necessarily want to just keep getting hit your whole career. Anyway, we both like Molly McCann to win. We both think she's worth it for DraftKings. It probably goes to a decision, which makes this monkey knife fight strike line a little tough. What do you think of that?
That's probably more. A lot of volume.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look a little closer at specifically Molly McCann's last 3 or 4 fights, how many strikes she landed in those, because 91.5 strikes, I hate doing over that, but Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit with any of them. Let me know when you do, and I send you $50. There's literally a form right there on the website that says claim your free money. Fill it out, and I'll send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. Next up, at UFC London, we have the return of Gunnar Nelson. After 2 years, Gunnar Nelson is 17-5. He's 2-3 in his last 5, coming off a 2-year layoff, and he's fighting Takashi Sato at 16-4. He's 3-2 in his last 5, with both of those losses being by submission. And Takashi Sato is stepping up on short notice here, so factor that in. Gunnar Nelson, he's a grappler. He developed some striking over time. He has that long karate Wonder Boy stance on his feet where he's wide and long and he bounces from side to side. And he just, he likes to use kicks to manage range. Then he just blitzes forward, lowers his level, and shoots takedowns. Once it hits the ground, he's got very good ground and pound, very good BJJ. His issue, though, is that his takedowns themselves are not very good because he has that long style, that long stance, that Wonder Boy stand upright, wide legs. He's got to go from that to lowering his level, getting under somebody's hips, and shooting a takedown. And if you think about a pendulum, he's starting all the way up here to swoop down and then come back up. That's a lot of movement, a lot of distance to cover, and that is why he has a horrific striking differential because he gets blasted on his way in.
Let's see. Let's flash over to it real quick.
No, I don't show that. I don't show that until it's your turn.
You're talking about it. It seems to make sense.
All right. Here's his horrific striking differential. He lands 1.71 and he's hit 3.33. It's just horrific. Double. Anyway, Takashi Sato is stepping up on somewhat short notice after Gunnar's original opponent dropped out. Style-wise, he's a striker. He's got solid power, pretty well-timed strikes. He's got pretty good volume, and he really turns it on when he has you stunned. He can be hittable, though, and that's because he's always moving his feet, but he doesn't move his head. So it looks like he has constant movement, but his head is staying in the same spot, and his head gets touched up. He's got solid takedown defense at 75%, and he probably needs that in this fight. Gunnar Nelson has not fought in 2 years, and just recently he said it was because of a pair of really bad rib injuries. And honestly, I used this reference last time, though. This feels like when Al Iaquinta fought Bobby Green. It was pretty clear that Al was done with MMA. Wasn't looking to fight again. And then the UFC said, hey, we're going to Madison Square Garden. And Al Iaquinta's like, I'll fight at Madison Square Garden. And then all of a sudden, he gets knocked out and Bobby Green, got his first knockout in many, many years. It feels somewhat similar. I get it. Gunnar's not from London, but this is in Europe. Technically, hometown crowd. And, I think he does want a sort of last hurrah, and I think he's taking the opportunity to fight in Europe, fight in a quote-unquote hometown crowd. I think the difference, though, between Gunnar and Al, even though I do think there are some similarities with, if they offered him a fight the same weekend in America on a tougher card, I don't think he takes it. But anyway, the difference, I think, though, is Gunnar Nelson still has some good years left in him, where Al was pretty much done. And he's got some good years left in him, and if you dig a little deeper into those 3 losses. He lost to Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards, and Ponzinibbio, and that was years ago. So turns out those guys are really good, and those losses have actually held up really well. So I think the UFC has done everything possible to help Gunnar here. The short notice thing, whatever, but it's not their fault the original opponent dropped, but they went out and they got somebody who wasn't very good on the ground and is tailor-made for this. And, I think Gunnar just shoots some takedowns, even if they're from way too far away, gets it to the ground. He probably wins by submission. But a 2-year layoff is a long layoff, and I guess we'll see how he looks. Another fight. I was already on this graphic. Another fight that I'll be watching the scales for. What do you think, Jacob?
You know what this fight could end up looking like? Because you mentioned Gunnar Nelson and his stance. I even have it in my notes that he's a very Stephen Thompson-like stance. Takashi Soto has like the exact same stance, and they're both very, very passive strikers in that right. That's why you see that more or less strike line right there. They honestly could land like less than 10 strikes around if this stays on the feet. I see this as, we talk about the fight of the night, I see this as one of the most boring fights of the entire card, potentially, if Gunnar does not wrestle. We'll see what happens with the wrestling. Takashi Soto, listen, honestly, this matchup was tailor-made for Gunnar Nelson. I think this is a lamb to slaughter type situation. This is why the odds are as wide as they are, because if you look at that last fight against Miguel Baeza, the ease at which Baeza was able to get to his leg and just dump him on his head and submit him, I mean, that's the path to victory, right? If you're Gunnar Nelson, you got to be able to see that and think, all right, let me just do what I do. Let me just shoot a takedown, get to the ground, and just dominate the fight, which is exactly what should happen. If this is just a strictly striking match, both these guys kind of suck, so it's going to be boring. Neither one of these guys wants to throw volume, so that's why I think it can be a boring fight. But honestly, if Gunnar just wants to shoot a takedown, get to a leg, he should be able to get into the ground and submit him, I think, fairly easily. I think this matchup was tailor-made for Gunnar Nelson. That's kind of why he took the fight. I think he likes this matchup, and I think he should just dominate, honestly. I don't think he's a very good fighter, but he should dominate this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We both completely agree on this fight. So Gunnar Nelson's both our pick. We think he's going to be the very fortunate benefactor of a favorable matchup, essentially. But this is a fight. That was like the nerdiest sentence I've put together in many years. This is going to be another watch the scale fight because, frankly, Gunnar Nelson shows up a little chubby, hasn't fought in 2 years, hasn't put in the time. I may pick against him because
is he still at Connor's camp too? Because we've seen Connor's coach has not been the best coach for people as of late. I don't know if he's won. I honestly, as a coach, I don't know if he's won a fight in like the last 4 years.
He's the new Edmund Tarvarian, the guy who ruined Ronda Rousey.
Right. So I don't know if he's still in that camp. He was in that camp, so I don't know.
Yeah, I just think we'll see what he looks like. If he shows up on the scale in shape, looks great. Like, hey, listen, I've been wanting to fight these. I just had rib injuries, and it is what it is. I'm all for it. So Gunnar Nelson is a clean, easy pick, but he's it's really just because he's benefiting from some stuff. $9,200 is probably worth. Assuming he looks good on the scale, $9,200, he should win by submission. Right. Yeah, I mean this one, another one. Minus 450 should be a $9,600 value, but there's a lot of big favorites, so he's $9,200. That's probably good value. Yeah, he's probably worth that. And the Monkey Knife Fight strike line is interesting. It's very low. It's very close. Not much data. Gunnar hasn't fought in years, so I'm not sure what makes the most sense there. You like more in that? You can't really do a less on 24. You just leave it alone, I guess. Then. Yeah, just leave it alone. Yeah. I mean, I probably leave that line alone as well. I mean, it might be a more, but like you said, they're both passive strikers. There's not necessarily going to be a ton of back and forth there. But if you want 50 free bucks, one of you just signed up. I got an alert on my phone. Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit with any of them. Let me know after you do, and I send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. And that takes us to Paddy to Body in the feature fight of the evening. We don't get in the feature fight of the evening. Paddy Pimblett is taking on Rodrigo Kazula Vargas. I never understand why half the books and websites have him listed as Kazula. His name is Rodrigo. I don't know why when they decide to use a nickname as a first name and when they don't. Anyway, Rodrigo Vargas is 12-4 overall. He's 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a solid win where, like this fight, he was a very big underdog. Paddy Pimblett, 17-3 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a very successful UFC debut. Paddy Pimblett, he's a hot prospect. He's coming off a very fun win in that UFC debut. He's a pretty well-rounded guy. He has solid experience despite this being only his second UFC fight. He is very hittable. We said he was hittable before his last fight, and his last fight just affirmed what we were saying. He's got solid striking offense. His defense obviously needs some work. He's a very smooth grappler. He flows really well on the ground, and he really does have the tools to be the next big thing if he just makes a few tweaks here and there. Rodrigo Vargas is a fun and wild striker. He's coming off a really nice win over Zhu Rong, where he was taken down 3 times, but still more than doubled Zhu's strikes. He likes to come forward and throw heavy strikes at a high pace, but he isn't just a wild striker. He has solid takedowns, solid BJJ. He's listed at 12-4, but one of those losses was because of an illegal knee, so he's really 12-3. Paddy is a prospect, and the UFC definitely wants him to be a star, but he is freaking hittable. In his last fight, the first thing Michael Bisping said to him in the cage interview was, "You were almost knocked out," which he was. So you can't just look at Tapology. You can't just look at Tapology, see, oh, Paddy Pimblett won by first round knockout, and assume that he blew through Luigi Vendramini in that fight, because he did not. After that fight, I did a recap video, and I literally said, I am going to fade Paddy against any solid striker. And I think Rodrigo is a solid striker. I think Rodrigo hits harder than Paddy. I think he's far less hittable than Paddy is. My only concern here is that while Vargas is capable on the ground, I think Paddy is much smoother and could potentially submit him. But if Paddy stands and trades strike for strike with Rodrigo Vargas, I think his chin is going to get touched, and I'm not sure if it's going to hold up. Rodrigo Vargas is a much more dangerous striker than Luigi Vendramini was, and I'm really torn here. I really want to pick Rodrigo. I don't know if it's because I'm just like, Paddy's hittable, and I said I wouldn't pick him again.
Then just pick him. You've been soft the entire card. Just pick him. Just pick him.
Jesus Christ. Mute you. Be done with it. The show is easier with solo anyway, frankly. Anyway, Rodrigo, I think he hits harder. I think he's faster. He's definitely the better striker. And, I got into a lot of arguments with people because I did pick Rodrigo. I'm picking Rodrigo now. I picked him earlier in the week. And a lot of the people arguing that, Rodrigo sucks and this and that. Here's the quick breakdown before I let Jacob go. The reality is, Luigi Vendramini almost knocked out Paddy Pimblett cold. And the only reason he didn't knock him out is because he decided to shoot a takedown like an idiot. If he doesn't shoot that takedown, he stops Paddy Pimblett. Rodrigo Vargas is a better striker than Paddy Pimblett is. So I think it's this simple. I'm picking Rodrigo. I think Paddy's going to stand. He's in his hometown. He wants to put on a show. If Paddy Pimblett grapples, he wins. If he strikes, he loses. I think he's going to strike. I like Rodrigo Vargas as an underdog. Why don't you give us your amazing insight, Jacob? And then I could rattle off your freaking win record for the year, and then we'll see how good your insight is. Muppet.
Look how fired up he is, guys. Holy cow. Look at that. He's trying with the personal attacks. That's crazy. Paddy's going to absolutely dominate this matchup. The UFC set this up because they realized after that last fight, whoops, we almost really messed up this prospect. They tried to give him a big underdog the last fight. He did get hit. You say he almost got finished or whatever. He was never even out of it. He got hit and was stunned, but he was still fighting back. He was never eyes glassed over, didn't know what he was doing. He was in a perfect situation where he was still defending, and he came back in that situation and won the fight because he was never out of the fight mentally. And this matchup, it's going to be the grappling is where you're going to win. Just grapple him, you're going to win very easily. If you want to strike, this probably is the guy that you can strike with, because if you watch that Zhu Rong fight with Rodrigo in his last fight, he was hitting Zhu Rong clean. I mean, was coming across, overhand right, just hitting him clean, and Zhu Rong was just like, all right. I mean, he was not affected. You talk about the power. He doesn't really have like this huge knockout power. He has knockouts, but I don't think he has knockout powers. Paddy's going to clean up the striking. I think that he just goes straight to the wrestling in this matchup, doesn't mess around with it, and just absolutely dominates this matchup. So I don't see it. I mean, there's a reason he's a big favorite. You want to play the opposite. I think you picked against Paddy in the last fight too. It worked out well for you. I'm Paddy all the way.
No, I picked Paddy in the last fight.
Almost. Yeah.
No, but I straight up, I picked Paddy to win the last fight. My whole breakdown was, I'm buying the hype. I believe it. I'm picking Paddy. He's hittable, but Luigi's not a great striker. And listen, let's be honest. First of all, somebody in the chat called me fat. You're banned. Bye, dork. Second of all, I think if you look at that last fight, Luigi Vendramini had him rocked big time. And the only reason he didn't stop Paddy is because he shot a takedown. Would you agree that if he just kept firing punches, he could have gotten a stoppage there? He shot a takedown and
Paddy
ruined.
Paddy was never just shelled up,
Okay.
just like hurt. He got rocked and he got out of this situation. He still was coherent. He knew what was going on, and that's why he ended up winning the fight. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus is right. Jesus is right.
And he's got the good karma because he stood up against that coward Ilia Topuria and his whole crew, and he's got the Ryan Hall blessing now. So Ryan Hall is in Paddy. He's going to get the submission win. Ryan Hall is in Paddy.
Listen, I think it's literally as simple as if Paddy grapples, he wins. I think it's literally that simple. So, there's a very clear path. I'm not saying that Rodrigo Vargas smokes Paddy, but if Paddy strikes with a guy who hits as hard as Rodrigo Vargas, who is as willing and as dangerous to trade as Rodrigo Vargas is, Paddy is not going to be as lucky as he was in his last fight. You and I talked about this off camera earlier in the week. Hopefully, Paddy is going to make the right decisions. He knows what he is. He knows what he isn't. And he'll probably look to grapple and grapple quickly here. And if he does, it's his fight. He's going to look smooth as hell. And it's a loss for me as far as picks are concerned. But if he strikes, I think he's in a little bit of trouble. And that is the reason I like Rodrigo Vargas here. We've got $9,400 and $6,800. With that being said, I'm not spending the $6,800 because, all Paddy needs to do is grapple. And I don't think he's stupid enough to try to swing it out again after what happened last time. I think he was just as nervous last time. I mean, freaking Michael Bisping, the first thing he said to him is, "You were almost knocked out." So
we don't
obviously
get knocked out.
That obviously stuck with him. So hopefully he doesn't try to put on a show, and we'll see what happens.
I hope he's improving his English, honestly, because he's going to win. It's going to be a great post-fight interview. I just hope he's improving his English. He's getting better, but I hope he gets a little bit better. It is crazy how hard that accent is to understand. They have like the crazy. I was watching because he has like those embedded videos that literally shows like him going through training camp and stuff, and he'll have a whole conversation. I'm like, what the hell did he just say? I have no idea what he just said.
What do you think the $9,400 is worth it?
Yeah, he's gonna be in my lineup for sure.
And because of a submission or a TKO? I mean, he's not going to TKO him on his feet.
I mean, he's got the power. I just don't think Rodrigo's that. Obviously, anything can happen. I could look stupid. But
he's
I just
Mexican tough, man. That chin. He's going to come forward. Nothing's going to stop that guy. Not his feet.
But I think the fact that I think on the feet is not where Paddy wants to win. I mean, maybe he does, but I think he gets it to the ground and just shows the grappling, kind of like we saw what's his name that just lost T-Rex. So in his debut, he got that early knockout, right? And then the second fight, it was a kind of a weird situation, but he showed off his grappling in that second fight. Obviously, he didn't shoot a takedown or anything, but he was able to. I think it's the same thing here. Paddy got the knockout in his debut. Okay, let me show what I really do in my fights.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're a little split here, but I want to be clear. This is not like biggest miss, blah, blah, blah. I'm not putting money on Rodrigo Vargas.
You're not going to make it a lock. It's not a lock.
No, I don't do lock of the weeks. I leave that for, you let the ladies have their thing.
Tread lightly. Tread lightly.
Monkey knife fight? Man, I don't know. I don't know what to do with monkey knife fight. What do you think with monkey knife fight? It's probably more and more. I think it's war-ish.
I think Paddy has an opportunity to finish this early. I would if he uses grappling, this is going to be a less for sure. He's so slick with his jiu-jitsu and everything else, man. Once he gets you on the ground, he is looking for a finish right then and there.
Yeah, I guess we will see what happens. And if you want to see what happens to your wallet after you go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, we send you $50. So go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners, make a deposit, let me know after you do, and we send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. And that takes us to the co-main event of the evening. We have another fighter coming back after more than a year away. We have Arnold Allen taking on Dan Hooker. Arnold Allen 5-0 in his last 5. He's 17-1 overall. He's coming back after a year layoff, but honestly, that just seems to be his fight schedule. He's been fighting once a year for the last few years. Dan Hooker 21-11 overall. He's 2-3 in his last 5. But 3 of those losses are to Islam, Chandler, and Poirier. Arnold Allen is a very good striker who loves coming forward. He has an upright stance, which helps protect him when he's outside of range. But then he comes lunging in with solid power, which is great. but he also ends up pretty hittable because of how he just comes lunging in. He has nice footwork and solid hand speed. He mixes in takedowns really well and has a few sneaky submissions like we saw in his UFC debut. Dan Hooker is making his featherweight debut, and I say debut loosely. I know, I'm fully aware that he fought at 45 earlier, but it has been many years. He's older, bigger, and he spent a lot of time at 155. So let's just call it a debut. Dan Hooker back down, I guess, at 145. He's a very good striker with an enormous amount of heart. He's long, rangy, a solid kickboxer who uses those kicks well to manage distance. He's coming off that loss to Islam, but he took that on short notice, and it just felt like the entire time he just didn't care if he won or lost. In the fight before that against Nasrat, we saw him working some wrestling really well, which just was kind of a new dynamic to his game. We've seen him in multiple wars against Felder and Dustin, but I do worry that those fights have taken a few years off his career. Dan Hooker opened as a plus 135 underdog, and those odds swayed all the way to Dan Hooker being a minus 130 favorite, and now they're back sort of towards the middle with Dan Hooker just being a tiny, slight favorite on most books. And I guess it makes sense because Dan's level of competition, he had world ranking, fighting world ranked fighters. He has just a whole breadth of a career in that 21-11, where Arnold Allen hasn't really fought the who's who of the division just yet, and we haven't really seen him tested. I get why the early books liked Allen here, though. He's young, he's fast, he hits hard, and he can grapple. He's won 8 fights in the UFC, and he's pretty much been under the radar the entire time. Nobody's given him any credit for all of those wins since 2015. We've even seen him come back from adversity and steal fights he was about to lose, like when he submitted Burnell after being taken down 6 times. So I actually like Arnold to win here. I only have 2 concerns. The first is you only fight once a year. I hate layoffs. I hate layoffs in this sport. The only time I'm okay with a layoff is like when it's Stipe Miocic after a knockout, right? Take a year, let your chin heal up, let your brain do what it's got to do. But a guy like this who's young, I just feel like he's given away his best years being as inactive as he is. The second concern is Dan Hooker coming back down to 145. He may be a beast. He may be strong as hell, keep the power, keep the cardio, and just be ready to go. Or he may be sucked out, his chin is useless, and he's exhausted. I just don't know. This is another let's watch the scale type situation, but I actually like Arnold Allen here. I think Dan Hooker, and this might be recency bias. I might be reading this completely wrong. I think Dan Hooker's a little bit overrated. What do you think?
I'm surprisingly agree with just about everything you said. Listen, speaking of overrated, the guy is a favorite. He has 11 losses. I mean, this is a 17-1 fighter. I understand the level of competition, but he has still lost 11 times in his career. This guy is not some invincible guy. And I hate when people try and reinvent themselves at a different weight class. Obviously, he was struggling at lightweight. He wasn't winning the big fights that he wanted to win. He was kind of up there as one of those guys, but he couldn't quite make it. So let me try and reinvent myself. How many times does that really work out? I mean, you see it occasionally. Obviously, Aldo was one, but Aldo is like a different level. A lot of times when these guys try to reinvent themselves, it doesn't really work out. I'm not worried about the cut. He made like a practice cut. He looked fine doing it. He's done it before. I'm not as worried about the cut as most people. But man, I talked earlier, we talked about Jack Shore. We talked about Jai. We talked about Paul Craig. Listen, we got Pat Sabatini, Ryan Hall, Melissa Gatto, TJ Brown, John Sexy Mexi, Gloria DePaula, Marina Moroz, and Guido Canetti. Last week, I told you guys we're 8-2-1. Lock of the week, last 11 weeks, we're on I mean, this is the best lock of the week has ever done. Early on, it started off great. Then it got a lot of little loosey-goosey. I told you guys I was going to lock it in. I've locked it in. We've got the lock of the week in Arnold Allen. This guy was bred and born and trained to be a champion. His coaches have talked. He doesn't care about the fame. He doesn't care about the money. He trains every single day because he wants to be a champion. There is different levels in fighting. Some people are very good at fighting and they do it because it's fun. They're not really fully invested. Some people have been in mixed martial arts their entire careers and they live and breathe it and they only want to be champions. And a lot of times, those are the people that become the champions. You see that with the Khabibs, the Islams, all those guys that just live it, breathe it, die for it. Arnold Allen is one of those guys. His striking is fantastic, but he doesn't go all in on his striking. He's very smart with his distance. He's very smart with his cardio. He's very smart with his distance. Did I say distance twice? No, I meant I don't know what I said, but
You said
anyway,
smart a few times. Jeez.
Yeah, the one thing he's got to worry, the two things he's got to worry about in this matchup is Dan Hooker's power early, because I think that 155 power will transfer to 145. I don't think he's going to have any issues with the weight cut. I think the power is going to transfer. He's got to watch out for the power early, and if there is clinch situations, you got to watch out for Dan Hooker in the clinch. He's going to be long, so the knees are going to be there, the elbows are going to be there. You got to be clean out of those breaks. If he's able to do that, I don't see him having any issues with Dan Hooker in this matchup. I think by the third round, this could end up looking like the Max Holloway-Calvin Kattar fight, where Max Holloway is just absolutely piecing up Dan Hooker. I think Arnold Allen has those abilities on the feet. If Dan Hooker wants to try to wrestle, you saw Arnold Allen against Nick Lentz. Nick Lentz wasn't credited with a takedown, but he kind of did get a takedown in that matchup. He got him to a knee, but Arnold Allen, you could tell, knew what to do in that situation to keep from getting put onto his back. I don't think Dan Hooker is going to be able to grapple in this matchup. I think he's going to try and strike. If he doesn't find a knockout early, he's going to be in big trouble, because this is the lock of the week, and I do not lose lock of the week. So Arnold Allen, congratulations on the win this week, and let's make that run for the title, baby. Lock of the week.
We're both on the Allen side. I'm going to be watching the scale a little bit, right? Because I am very curious to see what Dan Hooker looks like. I know he did the test cut, but that doesn't matter. What did you see with the test cut? A quick social media post? You don't know. You know what I mean? You don't know.
I mean, big on the scale, big smile, flex, and didn't look sucked out. You can tell a lot by those videos.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but we'll see. We'll see what he looks like on the scale. Maybe nothing may look great. I mean, he still has to travel. I mean, yeah, it's not all the way to America, but this is not a quick flight from Australia to England. DraftKings, straight up pick him. I like Arnold Allen, $8,000. If you're on the Dan Hooker side, grab it. $8,200, it's worth the extra $200. Because what I will say, the known for Dan Hooker is we know how freaking tough he is. We know the wars he's been in. And he's not the type of guy that you put out there quickly unless your name is Islam. So he can make a fight super dirty. Obviously, you'll have Allen in your lineup at 8,000. I probably will as well. What do you think of the Monkey Knife Fight strike line? 48.5 to 99. I think it's a more or less.
Yeah, it's probably a more or less, because Arnold will have power when he wants it. He's a guy that when he starts getting his range, he will sit on a shot. So he has power. He doesn't throw it a lot, which I like in that matchup because that could find some issues. So he's going to be a lower volume guy. I like that 48 number. It's probably a more play on top of that. And Dan Hooker, I don't see him throwing a ton of volume in this matchup. I think he needs to be the power guy if he wants to try to win. So it's probably a less play on him.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. And so you don't care at all about the scale for Dan Hooker. You're not worried that he's going to come in being jacked and make something happen.
I agree with you that it's obviously different from making featherweight whenever it was 6 or 7 years ago, because you're going to grow into that lightweight body. By continuing to just cut to lightweight, you're going to naturally grow as you get older into that body. So we'll see how he looks on Friday. Maybe it is an issue, but I'm not quite as worried about it as everyone else is.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, anyway, you want 50 free bucks? Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know, and we send you $50. But you got to use our links, and you got to make a deposit, and we'll send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. And that takes us to the main event of the evening. We have Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall. Alexander Volkov, 34-9 overall. 3-2 in his last 5. He has 2 losses to Sirogan and Curtis Blades. Tom Aspinall, 11-2 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, and he hasn't lost since 2016 when he landed an illegal elbow. Alexander Volkov, he bounced back after that loss to Sirogan with a solid win over Marcin Tybura. He did not look very good in that fight, but you know, it's still, and it seems like everybody's beaten Marcin Tybura lately, but it's still a solid win to get him back on track. Volkov's a very good striker, has high fight IQ. He's fast, he has volume, he picks his shots really well, and he will adapt in a fight. He's not a big power guy, but his volume and his timing suit him well enough to get those finishes. Despite that last-minute loss to Derek Lewis, he does have a really good chin, and he is a very durable guy. Tom Aspinall is a very good striker who has spent time training with Tyson Fury. For a heavyweight, he has excellent hand speed, good defense, and a diverse attack style where he mixes in kicks really well. But he isn't just a striker. He also has a 100% takedown accuracy and a 100% takedown defense. And just last year, he submitted Hall of Famer Andrei Arlovsky. He has a 100% finish rate as well, which is amazing, but it also worries me because Volkov is stupid durable, and we've never seen Tom finish 3 rounds, let alone 5 rounds. And this is a great fight to find out just how good of a prospect Tom Aspinall is. As it sits now, the odds are pretty close to even. I've seen them bounce back and forth. Some books you can get, close to plus money on Tom Aspinall. Others, you may see Volkov as a little bit of a favorite. So this one's pretty dialed in, and it's just moving a little bit back and forth here and there. I completely understand the respect the books are putting on Volkov's name, his body of work. I mean, we've seen him lose to strikers like Gane and Lewis, as well as grapplers like Blades, who took him down. Curtis Blades took him down freaking 14 times. But he has fought the literal who's who of the heavyweight division. I don't think Aspinall has Lewis's power. I don't think he has Blades' grappling. But I do think he's a better pure striker than Volkov. So Volkov is an accomplished kickboxer, has many kickboxing fights, and he uses it really well, but I just think there is something special about Tom and his hands and his hand speed, and I think you could argue he's the better striker. Definitely has the better hands. Once you start mixing in kicks, it's a little different. So, and he's definitely the better grappler than Volkov is. Volkov's got decent takedown defense, but Tom Aspinall's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt on the ground. I think it's a pretty straightforward pick, though. In my mind, I do like Aspinall here. I think he's as talented as his record says. I think he's, special on his feet, can make things happen on the ground. Tom Aspinall's the pick. I did throw a money line on him, but the one thing that does worry me is just Volkov's toughness. He's so hard to put away. And I just don't know if Tom Aspinall can win a 5-round fight, and it might be hard to put away Volkov. That's my concern. But I did grab Tom Aspinall at minus 110. He was plus money at one point, and then that moved. But that's my breakdown, Jacob. So I like him enough to bet on him, but I am very, very nervous about that.
Yeah, I like the odds on him. I actually have a bet on him too. I put him in a parlay, kind of an underdog parlay. I know he's kind of the favorite in this matchup, but him, Arnold Allen, and Jack Shore. I stacked all 3 of those guys. I like them all in their matchups. This is probably the toughest one of the 3, honestly, because if you try and pure kickbox with Alexander Volkov, nobody can do that except for Gane. The only person that can out kickbox Volkov was Cyril Gane. Obviously, Derek Lewis knocked him out, but Volkov was dominating that fight in pure kickboxing and then got knocked out in the end. And you mentioned the Curtis Blades fight. He was taken down 14 of 25 times against Curtis Blades. Looked bad doing it, but since then has looked very, very good. You could tell in his matchups, in those grappling exchanges, he's put on good weight. I think DC talked about it in one of his last fights. You could tell he put on a lot of leg weight. He knew he had to address the situation of takedowns. Otherwise, as tall as he is, everyone was going to try and take him down. And unfortunately for Tom, I agree, he does have good hands. I don't want Tom trying to box or kickbox with Volkov in this matchup. The path to victory is to try and get him to the ground. Tom is a bigger heavyweight. He's not a huge heavyweight, but I think he's going to be physical enough that the size of Volkov and the strength of Volkov, he can overcome that and get the takedowns that he needs. And that's going to be his easiest path to victory because Volkov's going to have good takedown defense, but if you get him on his back, you can control him there, and that's how you can win this much more easy, I don't know if that makes sense, but much easier than trying to win a kickboxing match versus Volkov. Can he still win that match? He probably can, but that's a much, much tougher path to victory than just trying to get this fight to the ground. And maybe it doesn't work. Maybe he tries to shoot some takedowns. He abandons it. That's maybe where he can find himself in some trouble because Volkov does have real power. When he kickboxes and he lands, he's going to have that heavyweight power. So it's a very, very interesting matchup to see how Tom and his coaching and his camp want to play this matchup because I think the grappling ability is going to be there. Whether he can get those takedowns is yet to be seen. I think that's going to determine this fight. But I'm going to pick Tom Aspinall because I like his value, and I think he's a real deal.
Yeah, I think we're pretty aligned with that. People are giving me a hard time saying, oh, you got him at minus 110. He opened at plus 130. You're late, bro. Yeah, I was late. That's what happens. I break down freaking full fight cards every single week. It is hard to be 2-3 weeks ahead. So when I did my research for this one and started breaking it down, I got the odds and I said, boom, I'm going to grab Tom Aspinall because this line is definitely going to move. It started to move. It wasn't the drastic movement that I expected, but it did start to move. So he's only minus 120. I think a lot of that just is respect for Volkov's body of work. I mean, 34-9. Nine's not that many losses, man. 34-9.
He's still relatively young, too. I think he's only like 34. He seems like an older guy, honestly. He seems like he might be 39, 40 years old because he's been around for so long.
Yeah, he's got some bad years on him, though. He's a little older than, his body's older than 34 for sure. But this is another odds jam one, guys. This is one where check out oddsjam.com. They monitor the odds, they like real time monitor the odds. And this is one where if you're looking to get better money on Tom Aspinall than I did and that you can get right now, they're going to have that all laid out for you, every single sports book and where those odds are. And you could catch some of these smaller sports book just sleeping on lines because all they care about is college basketball this weekend and they don't care about fights. So they didn't come in there and they didn't make the adjustments that they needed to. So I like Tom Aspinall. Jacob likes Tom Aspinall as well. But monitor those odds at oddsjams.com if that's something you're looking to do. I do think Volkov might be worth the $7,900 in DraftKings, though. What do you think?
This could be an interesting 5-round if this turns into a kickboxing match, because this could be an interesting double up. Obviously, you don't want in the big tournaments. You usually have to go 6 for 6, so you don't want to double up. But if you're just playing a game with friends like our league or something, it'd be an interesting double up because Tom could get maybe a couple takedowns in there, but Volkov's winning the striking. Volkov's just a little bit. I don't know if I trust his volume enough for $7,900. Honestly.
Yeah, I think. It is tricky. His wealth of experience is something special, but I hear you. He may not necessarily be worth that $7,900. I wish he was like 72 because I would absolutely do that. And what do you think of this monkey knife fight strike line? Pretty low for Volkov, pretty high for Tom Aspinall. I think it's a more or less. I don't think if Tom Aspinall's landing 100, I don't think Tom Aspinall wins a decision though. I think he either can put Volkov out or I just don't know what his cardio is going to look like. We've never seen him anywhere near 5 rounds.
Yeah,
I just don't know what his cardio is going to look like.
He could put up 80, 90 strikes in the first 2.5 rounds and then gas, and that's where Volkov gets his numbers too. So Volkov's going to be a tough out, man. I'm Tom on this side, but I even have it in my notes right here. It's not going to be easy. I literally typed it out because this is going to be a tough fight for Tom. And monkey knife fight. I want to say more and more.
Well, we'll find out just how good he actually is. More and more is probably right. 56 is such a low number. I guess it is 5 rounds. 98, those almost hundreds always scare me, especially for heavyweights. But this is a really fun fight, really good card. I'm looking forward to it. Guys, make sure you go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and I send you $50 as a thank you. It's literally that simple. You just have to use our link, and you have to make a deposit. Some of you are reaching out, no deposit. I can't pay you. Some of you reaching out, oh, I signed up 3 years ago. I'm sorry. You got to use our links and make a deposit. But I will send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things. We will be back on Friday with our final breakdowns because, after weigh-ins, things change. We got to take a look. We are not going to have a pre-fight live stream because this thing starts very early in the U.S., but I may have a fight companion because we should have that same time slot, the 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time slot. That should be up and ready for me. It just won't be a pre-fight. It'll be a fight companion for some of the prelims. And this podcast is also audio, so check it out. We're on iTunes, Spotify, all the things. Check that out. Listen to it when you jog because I know you guys are fitness freaks. Hey, Jacob, any last words before we head out?
I just hope that Ilia Topuria gets his brains bashed in. Pretty simple. For the love of Ryan Hall, I hope that happens.
In Ryan Hall's name. All right. Well, thank you all so much. We peaked at like 150 live. So appreciate that. Thank you all so much for everything. For the trolls in the comment section, thank you so much, because all YouTube cares about is the interaction. So I don't care if it's negative or positive. The interaction helps us.
As long as you're fun trolls, we don't mind the trolls.
There was a couple unfun
just keep
ones.
it lighthearted. Yeah, the SF Vlogs is he's teetering, but we'll keep him around.
And somebody had said the N-word before and was kicked out immediately. So anyway,
you actually didn't ban them, but I handled it.
I was in the middle of doing my thing when I said it, and then I saw you picked up on it.
Yeah, I saw it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, you're out. So anyway, thank you all for everything. Like, subscribe, do all the things. We'll see you Friday, and hopefully we'll see you Saturday for a fight companion.